Your partner just bought you flowers. They remembered your favorite coffee order without asking. Last week, they planned the perfect date night. And yet, somewhere deep in your chest, there is this knot that won't untangle. You find yourself rehearsing conversations before you have them, editing your words 3 times before you speak, and apologizing for things you can't even name. Your friends say you're lucky. Your family thinks they're great. So why do you feel like you're slowly disappearing? If you just felt your stomach drop, stay with me. And hey, if this resonates with you, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. This channel is all about understanding our minds better together. Let's talk about something that doesn't leave bruises, but somehow hurts even deeper. Emotional abuse is one of those things that's incredibly difficult to spot when you're in it, because it doesn't follow a simple formula. There's no handbook that shows up at your door saying, "Congratulations, you're being emotionally abused." Instead, it's subtle, confusing, and often wrapped up in behaviors that can sometimes look like love or concern. Here's the thing that makes emotional abuse so tricky. It messes with your reality. It's not about one big, terrible moment you can point to. It's about patterns, about the slow erosion of your sense of self, about walking on eggshells in your own life. And because it's psychological rather than physical, people, including the person experiencing it, often dismiss it as not that bad or just how relationships are. But here's what we know. Emotional abuse is real, it's damaging, and it absolutely counts. So let's break down the signs, because awareness is the first step to understanding what's happening. One of the most disorienting signs is when someone consistently denies your reality. They tell you things didn't happen the way you remember them. They insist you're too sensitive, too dramatic, or misunderstanding their intentions. You start a conversation absolutely certain about what happened, and somehow you end it apologizing and doubting yourself. This isn't just forgetfulness or seeing things differently. This is someone actively rewriting history to make you question your own mind. And here's a fascinating but disturbing fact. Research shows that when someone repeatedly contradicts your memory of events, your brain can actually start to encode their version instead of what you experienced. Your mind is literally being rewired to doubt itself. Another major sign is gradual isolation. This doesn't usually happen overnight with a dramatic, "you can't see your friends anymore" declaration. Instead, it's more sophisticated. They might make subtle comments about your best friend being a bad influence. They create tension or drama whenever you have plans with others, so you start canceling to avoid the conflict. They act hurt or abandoned when you want time with family. They might shower you with attention and make you feel so special that slowly other relationships start to feel less important. Before you know it, months have passed and you've barely seen the people who used to be your support system. And when you're isolated, you have fewer outside perspectives to help you see what's really going on. Here's one that trips people up constantly. Constant criticism dressed as concern or jokes. "I'm just trying to help you be better. Can't you take a joke? I only say these things because I care about you." They point out your flaws regularly, comment on your appearance, mock your interests, or belittle your achievements, but always with this veneer of caring or humor. The impact: you become hyper-aware of your perceived shortcomings. You start policing yourself, trying to be perfect, trying to avoid the next criticism. Your self-esteem takes hit after hit, but because it's framed as helpful or funny, you feel guilty for being upset about it. Living with someone who is emotionally abusive often means constant unpredictability. Their mood determines the entire atmosphere of your life. You develop this exhausting hypervigilance, trying to read their emotional state so you can adjust accordingly. Good mood, you relax slightly. Bad mood, you scramble to figure out what you did wrong or how to fix it. The unpredictability is actually part of the control mechanism. When you can't predict what will set them off, you become constantly alert, constantly trying to manage their emotions. This is emotionally exhausting, and over time, it becomes your full-time job to keep the peace. Affection and approval become tools of control. When you comply, when you do what they want, when you make yourself smaller to accommodate them, you get warmth and love. When you assert yourself, have different opinions, or set boundaries, that affection gets withdrawn. The silent treatment, the cold shoulder, the sudden distance, these aren't just someone needing space, they're calculated responses designed to punish you for not falling in line. This creates what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement, and fun fact that's not actually fun at all, intermittent reinforcement is one of the most powerful behavioral conditioning tools that exists. It's the same psychological principle that makes gambling addictive. You keep trying to get back to those good moments, and you'll do almost anything to avoid the withdrawal of affection. Nothing is ever their fault. Every problem in the relationship, every conflict, every upset, somehow it circles back to being your responsibility. They have this incredible ability to flip any situation where they've hurt you into one where they're actually the victim and you're the perpetrator. You came to them with a legitimate concern, and 30 minutes later, you're apologizing for bringing it up. This constant deflection means you can never actually address problems or have your feelings validated. Instead, you become the repository for all relationship issues, carrying the weight of responsibility for both people. Healthy relationships respect boundaries. Emotionally abusive ones treat them like suggestions at best, insults at worst. When you try to set limits about your time, your body, your privacy, your needs, they get angry, hurt, or dismissive. They might accuse you of not loving them enough, being selfish, or trying to control them. They go through your phone, show up uninvited, demand to know where you are at all times, or guilt you for having needs that differ from theirs. The message becomes clear. Your boundaries are obstacles to overcome, not limits to respect. Your value in the relationship is conditional on your usefulness or compliance. You're amazing when you're doing what they want, terrible when you're not. They might threaten to leave over small disagreements, compare you unfavorably to others, or remind you that no one else would put up with you. These threats, whether explicit or implied, keep you in a state of anxiety about the relationship's stability. Here's something that surprised researchers. Studies have found that the anxiety created by this conditional approval can actually be more psychologically damaging than some forms of physical abuse because it attacks your core sense of worth and stability. One of the most telling signs that often gets overlooked, you're exhausted all the time, not just physically tired, but emotionally drained. Simple interactions feel like navigating a maze. You're constantly calculating, anticipating, managing. You feel like you're walking on eggshells, and the mental energy required to do this day in and day out is enormous. This exhaustion isn't weakness, it's your body and mind responding to chronic stress and hypervigilance. Over time, you start to lose touch with who you are. Your opinions become quieter, your interests fade, your goals get smaller or disappear entirely. You can't remember the last time you did something just because you wanted to. When someone asks what you like or what you think, you draw a blank, or worse, you automatically think about what your partner would approve of. This loss of self isn't dramatic. It's gradual, like a photograph slowly fading in sunlight. One day you look in the mirror and barely recognize the person looking back. Now, let's be clear about something. We all have bad days. We all sometimes say things we don't mean, get moody, or handle conflict poorly. Having one or two of these behaviors show up occasionally in a relationship doesn't automatically mean abuse. What we're talking about here is patterns, consistent, repeated behaviors that create an environment of control, fear, and diminishment. Also, emotional abuse isn't always intentional. Some people learned these patterns from their own traumatic backgrounds and genuinely don't realize what they're doing. Understanding this doesn't mean accepting the behavior. You can have compassion for someone's history while still recognizing that what's happening isn't okay and isn't your responsibility to fix. So if you're recognizing these patterns in your own relationship, first, I want you to know that your feelings are valid. What you're experiencing is real. You're not too sensitive, you're not overreacting, and you're not losing your mind. Second, reaching out for support is crucial. Talk to someone you trust, a friend, family member, therapist, or call a domestic abuse hotline. Yes, they help with emotional abuse too. These situations are complex and often difficult to navigate alone. And third, be gentle with yourself. If you've been in an emotionally abusive relationship, untangling from it, whether that means leaving or setting serious boundaries, takes time and support. There's no shame in how long you've stayed or how hard it is to leave. These relationships are designed to make it difficult to leave. Understanding emotional abuse is about recognizing that our emotional well-being matters just as much as our physical safety. You deserve relationships where you feel valued, respected, and free to be yourself, where your reality is acknowledged, your boundaries are honored, and your worth isn't up for debate. So here's my question for you. Have you experienced any of these patterns or supported someone who has? What helped you recognize what was happening? Drop your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. This community is built on sharing and supporting each other, and your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Thanks for watching, and remember, understanding ourselves and our relationships better isn't just psychology, it's self-care.